where do you want to go with this? You want to talk NFL draft? You want to talk a little Tigers? I'm leaving it up to you, Brandon.
Let's get to Detroit Lions. We know that's what the city of Detroit wants to hear about. That's what people tune into our show about, to hear about the Detroit Lions, hear about their first 4 picks in the first 93 picks. That's what they have right now. Talking about what they're potentially going to do. So, let's talk about the Lions in the draft.
Well, we were talking before the show, and it's must-see TV all the way from pick 1 to pick 32 on the first night because of what Brad Holmes has proven to do in the past. In the past 2 drafts, he's traded up. He's moved around. Yeah. And so even though the Lions are locked in at, I believe, 30 or 29 right now, they're locked in at 20. That's going to move, especially with the amount of assets that he has. He could very well trade up with the Vikings, trade up to get to where the Broncos are. And it really depends on what they want and what they need. But that's what makes this so exciting and what makes every moment of the draft now so exciting. We used to just wait around for our pick and know the Lions were going to botch it. Like that was just something that was going on. I remember during COVID, like the one thing that felt right was you knew the Lions were going to screw up the pick. And it was like
100%.
This feels normal again. I miss this. And that's what the Lions do to you. But now with Brad Holmes, it's like, okay, is he going to trade up to 12? Is he going to trade back? Are we going to get more assets? Could we not even pick anybody day 1? Could we move up to the number 2 pick? Like, I don't know what Brad Holmes' game plan is, and he's so good at throwing up smoke screens. And even if you thought you knew his game plan, he mentioned it. He's drafting from a completely different list that Mel Kiper's of the world are putting out, that ESPN's putting out, that any mock draft is putting out, because he has his guys that fit what the Detroit Lions think, feel, and execute. And it's a different list than what everybody else is looking at. And you saw it last year with Jahmyr Gibbs. You saw it with Campbell. You saw it with Brian Branch. Those were guys that people said he reached for, but he was like, no, these were the first-round grades. And for us to get those guys in the second round, those were our first-round grades. May not have been Indianapolis, but it was ours. And I love that he has just a conscience about where he wants to be.
Yeah, 100%. Brown Holmes and Dan Campbell, they do things their own way. Sheila Hamm have to add her into there. They do things their way and works for the Detroit Lions. Doing it that way has gotten them to the NFC Championship this past season after 3 years of building and working around and getting and becoming better. I agree with you 100%. Brown Holmes, he has his own list of players. When Mel Kiper comes out with a list, or Todd McShay, when they come out with a list, I've been on these lists, I know what it is. When you make a list, it's what are the best players in the country? Who are the best players, the most explosive players, the players that you know fit on most anybody's team? So, all right, cool. You look at this, it's a Caleb Williams. Is it a Drake May? Is it an insert verse from Florida State, the outside linebacker? Like, that's how it works. But with Brad Holmes, you're 100% correct. What fits the Detroit Lions? What guy has the makeup? What guy has what we need? What guy do we believe can come in here and learn the same identity that these other guys have, play for one another? There are no individuals, although they're starting to, become a little bit. Amon-Ra St. Brown has become an individual. You look at Aiden Hutchinson but they're a team. And I think that's what they're looking for in these players. But you got to know, the draft this year is in Detroit. It's downtown. It's Campus Marsh is where it will be set up this year. April 24th, I believe, is when it gets cracking. You know Brad Holmes is going to make a big splash in the first round. It will only be fitting if he made a splash like that, one within realm of reason, and one without a little bit. Got to give him some love. Downtown Detroit, the city can go crazy.
Do you think that weighs into Brad Holmes' decision? Because I look at him as a guy that's not going to waver off his path no matter what.
But he does it anyway.
Surrounding him.
I think he does it anyway. So I think.
But if he traded out at 29 and we didn't get a pick that whole Thursday,
hell no.
You don't think that would happen in downtown Detroit?
No, you can't. You cannot have somebody not walk the stage and it's in Detroit.
But it's Brad Holmes. I'm just saying, I could see Brad Holmes being like, I don't give a damn if it's in Detroit, L.A., on the moon, Mars. If we don't have our guy, I'm not going to go just waste a pick to placate the city. Like, I see him being steadfast in that, but that is an extra added pressure this year that's very interesting that Detroit has on them.
Yeah, I don't see it happening. It could. Like, to your point, Brad Holmes is a guy that does things his way. We just said that. So it could happen, but I don't see it happening. I think he's a guy that likes to take big splashes. I think he's a guy that sees what people don't see. So I don't even think he sees it as making a big splash. he just saw something that people didn't see last year. What people didn't see, they didn't see Jahmyr Gibbs and Sam Laporta being those, or Jack Campbell, being those first round picks, and they were. And Jahmyr Gibbs and Sam Laporta in the second round worked out tremendously well.
Right.
Jack Campbell will see some player development, some growth, as his coach is Calvin Shepard, and that's been another thing. I still stand on what I said last year. You remember? I got up after Jack Campbell got you.
Yeah. No, there was. There was a lot of hurt people in that room when Jahmyr Gibbs got picked, when they passed on Jalen Carter. But now, I mean, everything that's come out about Jalen Carter, what happened to the defense of the Eagles this year, you got to admit that was probably the right non-pick, and that's what Brad Holmes was speaking about when he was kind of lecturing the entire media. Like, it's not about the moves I make, too, guys. It's about the moves I don't make.
This is true. I mean, also another big move you look at is, and this is one we've talked about till we're blue in the face. Tom Masaway would still love to bring this one up. Shout out to the big fella. Once again, happy belated birthday. Yesterday it was. Penei Sewell and Micah Parsons. That's one of the biggest ones that he talked about. I obviously was on the side of Micah Parsons, as most people were. Stick, I know you are always on the side.
Hell of a basketball player.
Of Penei Sewell, 100% you were. You're starting to watch that move play out. Micah Parsons still has 40 sacks in his first 4 seasons. I think the only person to do that since him is Alden Smith, who did it in 2011 through 14. But you start to see some chinks in the armor when teams run the ball at Micah Parsons, when they don't allow him to just pin his ear back and rush the quarterback, tends to struggle. You saw that happen over and over again last year. You saw it with the Eagles. You saw it with the Lions to a certain extent, and then you saw it in the playoffs. But Penei Sewell has become the best right tackle in football. Mm-hmm. He's become the highest graded right tackle in football. He's getting better and better every year. And I also start to look at Penei Sewell has no injuries, knock on wood. Penei Sewell is very durable. Like, he's the most durable line on the offensive line. Meanwhile, Micah Parsons, those chips, those nicks, those triple teams and things of that nature, they start to take a toll. You see J.J. Watt, how his career started to go. Von Miller, and T.J. Watt now. Guys get injured at that position. I think more and more it's starting to be an equal pick, if not Penei pulling a little ahead.
The thing that pushed him ahead of me for Micah Parsons is if you added Micah Parsons to that Detroit defense at the time, you have Micah Parsons and 10 other guys that aren't really good.
10 Joes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When you added Penei Sewell to a line that was already strong, you became elite in at least one spot on the football field, right? Now you can start to take that one spot and build an identity around it.
This is a good point.
And that to me is what made me want Sewell over Parsons, and that's what I argue with Maz. Like, Parsons is great. Like, I would never say that this guy isn't a future Hall of Famer. He absolutely is. He will be fantastic. He is fantastic. But he wouldn't have given Detroit an identity. It would have been, man, Detroit has one good linebacker, but they're still giving up 42 points a game.
It could have also felt very similar. It could have felt like when we first got Ndamukong Suh. Ndamukong Suh was a wrecking ball, but it was just him. And eventually he gets the guys, Nick Fairley and a couple guys, and then, it's the next move they had to move him out. But I didn't see it then at the time, Stick, but I definitely see it now. And you got that offensive line going. They are the catalyst for the Detroit Lions.
For everything.
Look at that run game. You look at how they protect Jared Goff, allow him to have an easy pocket, clean pocket, if you will. That Lions offensive line has been the best in the last 2 years, especially when they're fully healthy.
Well, remember when the Lions could not get a 100-yard rusher to save their lives?
What?
We went 3 years without one. Kevin Jones
longer.
was the last one to do it. Like, it was forever.
Who's it, Kerryon Johnson?
Reggie Bush had a 100-yard game or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was years.
Reggie didn't hurt his ankle that year.
Yeah. I mean, Reggie and Joyke
Reggie balled.
Reggie and Joyke were a good 1-2 punch.
Yeah, he almost had 1,000. That when he hurt his ankle.
Yeah, but just once again, now it's like we expect a 1,000-yard rusher each season, and I mean we almost got 2 guys with that this year.
This is true.
This
is true.
It's crazy to me, and just all the streaks that the Lions used to be awful at, winning on the road. We went 2 years without winning on the road. Now it's just in the past. So yeah, going down those horrible memories.
What are your thoughts this year in terms of guys got to get paid? Because obviously we'll talk about the draft. We'll in depth. We'll do our first mocks probably next week or so. But the other side of it is free agency. It's guys coming up, guys you got to pay. That's something to look at. Lions got some couple guys that are coming up. Stick, who would be on your list of guys? If you just had 3 guys, who are the first 3 guys you think the Lions should tackle with payment?
With payment?
Yeah, in terms of like extending Jared Goff this year. Do you think you extend Jared Goff, or do you let him pay that $33 million out?
I'm letting Jared Goff play out his contract and potentially franchising him if he does well at the end of this year.
Okay.
That's my play with Jared Goff. I want Jared Goff, but there's financial implications on how to do this correctly. I saw the rumor Amon-Ra St. Brown going to get $25 million for the next couple of years.
Yep, $375.
Yeah, you got to pay him. You got to pay Amon-Ra St. Brown. I believe he's a part of this offense that clicks, and he's the catalyst on third down. He's our go-to guy. And you need to pay him. And I think if you get him at $25 million now, that's a discount to 2 years from now when $33 million is going to get you a Wes Welker type guy.
Considering 2 years ago, Christian Kirk got $24 million.
Exactly.
Yeah, 100%. Graham Glasgow is another guy they bring in. He's a guy with the way the offensive line is. He plays all three positions, tackle, guard, and center. Is this somebody that's on your radar?
Yeah, keeping everybody on that offensive line in play is on my radar.
So Jonah Jackson then, who's coming off an injury.
Yeah, but you can get them at a discount that way. So anytime you can keep those guys on the roster, I want to do it. Defensively, to me, the only golden goose is Aiden Hutchinson at this point. He's the only guy I'm willing to overpay and protect. Everybody else, until they prove otherwise, aren't that dude. Like, they're good as a team, they're good as a collective, but nobody's a standout.
Interesting with that. A guy that didn't play a lot of games, he was injured, he came in to do a duty, but when he was in there, when he was in there, he was electric in terms of energy. Didn't necessarily have the best game in the NFC Championship, but he's electric with the identity on both sides. That's C.J. Gardner-Johnson. What do you I can already see where you're going as I'm asking this question. What are your thoughts on C.J. Gardner-Johnson?
I like CJ. I like what he brings. I like him talking trash, but if you're going to talk trash, you better back it up. And that was the problem. Waving to the San Francisco fans before the game's over. To me, that showed that they were taking their eye off the prize and were letting somebody up off the mat. Like, you can't think you won in the second quarter, period. You just can't. Of anything, of any sport, anywhere. He kind of underperformed for me this year. From what I wanted to see out of him, but he's kind of the only guy that's got that bravado on defense that you need. You know, that Rasheed Wallace type talk trash.
Deebo Samuel, shoot.
Yeah.
The guy he was talking to, it just didn't work, but yeah.
And that's the thing, like, you got to pick and choose who you're talking trash to.
And we said that it was funny, too, because he also got into a back and forth with Baker Mayfield.
But got the pick?
100%, right? The tip pass off Mike Evans' hands. But when he started talking to Deebo, I was like, hold up, this ain't the one. I was like, no, not him. I was like, Deebo, don't do it. But